All right, it is indeed a very, very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It is the 19th of March 2023. Tarehe 19 mwezi ni wa 3 mwaka ni 2022. Tumai kwamba uko salama. This is Men Only. Comes to you every single Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Comes to you every single Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Na kama kawaida niko na squad. Leo nyumba ni full. Thank you for the gentleman who stood in for me last I think it's been the last 2 weeks now already. Time I was on a while, this time I traveled kidogo. Amekuwa akikaa hapa wakishikilia mnara wa Babeli wa wazee. This is Men Only. Comes to you every single Wednesday of 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Tuko na Jacob Aliet kama kawaida. Good evening to you, Jacob.
Good evening.
Keeping well?
Kwa salama kabisa, baridi ndio mingi.
Baridi. Lakini hisi so mejipanga
kabisa.
So shida kwa kunalia baridi.
Baridi.
Kuna biological heater.
Na wengine wanashikwa kwa video kama wanapata baridi.
Umeenda sana. Levi, good evening.
How is that an intro? Opening line na hiyo ni kali.
Ndio jaanza vizuri. Jacob kuna vile ameanza. Mama mapema ndio best. Good to see you. Levi.
Good to see you, bro.
Mambo vipi?
Niko salama kabisa, sina neno. It's a bit chilly today, but nasikia uko umeenda kupanda wewe.
Is it chilly? Nilikuwa nimeenda kupanda mahindi huko nani bwana. Kupandisha kusugisha bei ya unga. Lazima tuangalie.
Uko kwa hiyo mambo ya production.
Lazima tupunguze bei ya unga. Nilikuwa nimeenda Zambia. Nilikuwa nalima huko Zambia. So nilikuwa nimeenda huko Zambia kweli. Nilimaliwa nasikia Zambia. Unajua kitambo kama ulikuwa unadeal na driver wa gari. Free ilikuwa inaitwa Zambia. Sasa duka Zambia. Unaweka katikati. Really keeping well?
Keeping well. 1 month in.
Najua ndio lazima tukuulize every time. Tukikuuliza are you keeping well, you know what we mean.
I know what you mean. Keeping very well. Everyone is good. 30 days in.
How is mama?
Ako salama kabisa.
Hata ana adapt mdogo.
Hata yame adapt, we thank God. Anafanya hata kazi yako sawa.
Ameingia job tayari.
Yako job.
Very nice. Hi Silas, good evening.
Good evening.
Sasa watu wenye wanasema wanasikia chili ndio wako na hesabu ya kujipanga. Wewe mwenye hauna karata ndio uko na t-shirt.
I've learned to stay warm
The hard way.
Without that other agenda.
Hey, things by that as we're getting the other agenda, of course, was a lot of crazy things that have come out this week. Of course, we'll get into that, but uko salama?
Niko salama kabisa.
Hata hakuna chance mali fununu. Zingine tunasikia ngoma potea namna ina mwana.
Saizi Jacob alituambia to focus ruthlessly. Hatutaki distractions.
No distractions. All right, good to see you, gentlemen. Again, these are all authors wameandika kitu. Ile mimi kitu nimeandika ni composition. Levi here ameandika there's no useless experience. Tena wakaja kwa Aliet Unplugged, of course. Silas here ameandika nyingi zaidi. Mko number 4. Size ama.
I'll be on book number 4 and 5 in the next 2-3 weeks.
Yeah. So remember that you can get their books from Nuria if you're buying from the shops. And if you want to buy directly from them, of course, you can reach out to Jacob Aliet for Unplugged. You can reach out to Silas for Mad About Town, Sexocised, 50 Memos to Men. You can reach out, of course, to also Levi Kones for There Is No Useless Experience. I hear there's a second part coming in. So fingers crossed. Sasa unataka kutuambia nini round hii? There's a useless experience.
It was 40 chapters initially. I only did 20. There's 20 more.
Okay. 20 to go.
20 to go.
All right. Okay. We're looking forward to that. Please, anyone who has joined us this evening, please ensure that you can tag a fellow man. Ukiingia tafadhali ita mwanamume mwenzako. Cody King anasema Rodney Kiruya ameamushwa. Santa Paul Kibieka, good evening. Good evening to you. Josephine Kiari from Rwanda. Freddy Kiprop, State House Elgeyo Marakwet. Allah, okay. Mzae mzima, sine plan sema the Unplugged. Asante sana Moses Jigitao. Good evening, gentlemen. Hope you are all had a fruitful day since our last session. Tuned in from today's session lesson as always. Though tumekaa kwa waiting bay sana. Pole kidogo ndugu yangu. Huyo ni Gitao ameingia. Asante sana Gitao. Ameamusha Spix Sankara, Jane, Baba Nesta, Lucinesta Mwega, Kevo. Unaitwa kwanza kimbia. We need people like Kevo. Moses Gitao, Sam Jim Kenya, ameamusha ST Weisman, karibu sana. Bonches, karibu sana. Bonches Mwanzia, karibu. Wesley Rotich. Mr. Bitok watching you live from guys from Doha, Qatar. Asante. Big Bad Hogo unaamshwa Nasir Muhammad. Karibu pia. Good evening. I hope you're keeping well this evening. All right. We want to talk tonight about in-laws. And there's some times that we in-laws are in-laws. Then there are times that in-laws become outlaws. And they become an headache in your life. As a man, how do you deal with your in-laws? Actually, there's also a culture that's coming from where me and Levi come from. Because, in-laws initially, especially mother-in-law, are usually people you wonder. None of them Museveni anaongeanga na media. Around 3 kilometers away. That's how you deal with your mother-in-law. Then kuna siku hizi vijana wakusikizwa na dance na mother-in-law sugero rashu. Nasikia wako kabisa wanatuakia mother-in-law. There are crazy things that are going on, of course. But then again, how do you handle your in-laws when they become outlaws? But before that, there are some things that have happened this week. Very interesting things against men. First of all, you remember there's a story 2 years ago on Willie Paul. There's a lady called Miss P who came out and says, Willie Paul. So jana, she's spoken out and says, by the way, ilikuwa nadanganya. Na Willie Paul tafadhali nisamehe. In another story, there's a lecturer at Strathmore who was accused of killing his wife. How many years down the line, Levi, has he been finished?
18 to now.
To almost
5
5
years.
years.
5 years.
5 years. Wow. So 5 years down the line, it's found that this guy actually never killed the wife. I just wonder, you remember of course there was an international case. Which case was that? Which was ruled? What's the name of that
International case?
Yeah, there was this guy who was battling a case of rape. The case which was dropped last year.
In Kenya?
Was it
I
rape
think
or
in
assault?
UK. Was it in UK?
See Johnny Depp?
Yes, Johnny
Johnny
Depp.
Depp.
Yes,
It was
Johnny Depp,
assault
of course.
abuse.
Yeah, you can only imagine how many injustices men have been labeled against men. And men have suffered for things they never actually did because it's easy. If I have vendetta, if I'm on and have vendetta against Silas, tutaenda hapo tukunywa kidogo weekend. Nafikiri kidogo kesho nipige nduru. Boy. Silas naye pingu ta. 2 years down the line, nothing changes. I don't know. How does that make you feel, gentlemen? I'll start with you, Jacob.
Yeah, okay, you see, there's something we need to pay attention to. Right now, globally, as much as we say that women are more enrolled in the universities more than the gentlemen, they're enrolling mainly in law, psychology, these humanities. And these women are the ones who are going to become lawmakers. So this is going to become worse. There was a case that we were looking at the US because there are so many cases in the US where men are wrongfully accused. And later on, there are many cases where the women actually are found to have been lying. And the women get away scot-free. So when you look at why this is happening, they say that the lawmakers decided that the risk of a woman failing or fearing to come forward because she may be prosecuted, they'd rather have the woman lie and getting away with it rather than have any reason to discourage a woman from accusing a man of raping her. So that is what is happening, and it's very unfortunate. There are many men who have actually gone to jail because they've been accused of sexual assault and there is no evidence, or the evidence is not strong. Or nowadays, so long as you're accused, you need to either step aside or resign. There was actually there was a school principal who committed suicide, I think early this year, in the US, a man who had a career of 34 years. And he was having an altercation with the wife and she called the police. And when they came, these people refused to drop the case, even though she said that she was sorry she had called, she had actually just been excited and so on. But he was placed on suspension and so on. This guy decided to take his life. So I think it's something that is serious, and I hope that at some point we're going to be able to address it, because it's destroying lives, it's destroying careers, and it's also encouraging bad behavior. There's a lady called Shahrazad Ali who actually said that women are actually nowadays, they're incentivized to misbehave. So if you look at this case now of Willie Paul, and I think this is not the only lady who has accused him of this, and it shows you how rampant it can actually get. So it's something to pay attention to, and we hope that we'll be addressing it soon through the legal mechanisms.
But how can men actually protect themselves from such incidences, such happenings? How do you protect yourself from that?
It's very difficult to protect yourself, but I think as we were discussing earlier, as much as possible, you need to be able to, especially if you're a man of influence. You saw the case of Drake. Drake was having some liaison with a lady in a hotel room, and he threw his CD in a trash can. This lady picked it and tried to impregnate herself with it. So if you are in a position of influence where someone can actually take advantage, in the sense that there could be some incentive for her to accuse you, either through blackmail or just going through the legal process, and you're forced to pay money, you need to be very careful the females you associate with. So you can be able to tell the way they behave, where they are loose cannon, the kind of language they use. When you hear them speaking on calls, the kind of friends they have, you can tell that it's a risky person. So men need to be very careful. And I think going forward, we'll be having a lot of situations where you interact with a lady, let it be under CCTV, or where everything is recorded. Yeah.
Which interactions exactly you talking about under CCTV?
Any kind of okay, of course, if it's private, it needs to be private. But if it's in an open space, you can have it recorded.
Like
what interaction are we talking about?
Release another one.
I'm just saying general interaction. You see, for example, like we're in a studio here. If you're in a studio like this and you're with a lady, you know, if it's not recorded, she can say you assaulted her. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But Kanye's interaction was not okay. Never mind. Levi, what are your thoughts?
You know,
because it looks like men are becoming more and more vulnerable.
This particular topic is very dear to my heart. You know, this happened to me.
Yeah.
That is, it's in my book. You didn't see? It happened to me.
Okay.
I was accused of assaulting someone in 2013. I was in court.
Oh, yeah, your story. Yes.
Mujama also, by the way.
Yeah. I was in court until 2017.
Yes.
2017. Before I was acquitted, I was never compensated. And when I was accused, everybody wrote about me. I was in The Nation, I was in The Star, I was in Nairobian, I was in Gafla. Yeah.
I mean, they were setting you up for this.
Robert Alai was visually attacking me. By the way, you owe me an apology, Robert Alai, wherever you are. Because even when I gave him the facts, he still ruckered.
The court of public opinion.
Yeah. You know, this thing is very vicious to guys. Even today, if you Google me, that story will come up.
Siata kitabu. Hiyo ndio itakuja kwanza.
Imekuwa buried. Nimesaidiwa siku hizi na tupo. But if you Google that story nicely, you'll find it. Just write Levi Kones, then write assault. Utapata case, utapata story hapo. The thing about men, and you know, Jacob was saying, okay, we don't know how we can really prevent this. But I think one of the best prevention methods is, and by the way, the reason why I was even, me getting acquitted is not even on the internet. What's remaining is the accusation. See how bad and damaging it is to a guy. Meona. The thing is to actually take the signs and symptoms of a toxic woman seriously. Because they are there. If you ask all those guys and all these mamas who have done them things, they saw some things they lingered. And they thought, you know, maybe it's just one of crazy madness. And the truth is, these people
have always signs.
Yeah, kuna signs. There are things they do that make you realize that so and so it's not very normal. And guys who are dating such crazy women, if a woman can show up at your job and call up your boss and shout at the gate of your workplace, my brother, tomorrow she will anika you on every particular website possible. If she can call your mother out of the blue and they have never met to staki you for something at you are home late on a Friday, tomorrow she will anika you. You know, if she can take out your phone and text supposedly women on every woman she finds on your contact list to tell them stay away from my man. That, by the way, run away.
Kimbia.
Run away.
Murifaran. So what are some of those symptoms and signs?
Inakupatia tatu.
Hiyo ni tatu, ongeza ingine. Hiyo kidogo.
Silas wacha endelea, kuna 50 memos. Na kuna mingi, you know these things.
Silas, good evening. Have you ever been accused?
No, I've never been accused, but I need something that can happen. Like, you are never prepared for it, but it's something that I'm situationally aware that it can happen. And as a man, the best way that you can protect yourself is to ensure that usikue na njaa mingi, that you want to sleep with a girl the first night, right? Okay. Kuna hiyo unapata like kuna njaa inakusumbua, so the first night you are both drunk and then the mistake happens. I have a policy with my friend that if you meet a lady and you fancy, even if it's a party, prepare for the next day when you're sober so you can have that discussion. Okay. When I was in New York, I saw something on the train and it really bothered me. Like someone written a book, or was it a website, encouraging men, like you must have some textual evidence that you've been talking with this woman. You must like ask for a response, like how was it? She says she's nice and everything, because this is a thing that you might need to table in the future, that this is what happened, you know. And even in Kenya, you know, Kenya is one of the most Americanized country in Africa. So what happens that if I'm accused of rape today, man utachapwa vitu online, I know rape causes some of the worst reputational damages.
Yes,
you never recover from that. And any lady who does that has to pay the highest price, like the settlement Mochama had with the Indian lady and this other lady, I don't know, I forget her name. You know, they has to pay 9 million shillings.
Wow.
So this lady who accused Will Paul, this is not even about Will Paul anymore. It's not about Will Paul, it's forgiving her. This is about protecting other women who actually suffer from rape, you know, so that it's not trivialized, and you have people that who can weaponize it against men, you know. And it's also not a sensitive discussion because we can't hold women accountable without being accused, like we're promoting rape culture. So that's what complicates the matters for men. So for men now, it's just up to you to know wherever you are, the company of men that you keep and the company of women that you go out with. You need to know who they are, what they do, and what they are capable of. Because I've seen men try to mess up with the wrong women, and it's not like they should mess up with other women, but you know, unapata na mtu kwa party, you don't know who she is. Maybe she's even a daughter of like a top police cop. You know, kwa hapo na kimbele mbele yako. Just be patient and try and know whom you're dealing with, and even your friends ensure that they don't throw you kwa place mbaya. Like whoever you hang out with, ensure you know them. Unaweza kuja na watu mchape bangi hapo na pombe nini, ni mtu akufia kwa nyumba yako. That's already a police case. So like you should be constantly aware what you're doing and what, you know.
And be a fly on the wall. So you listen to conversation. If she did some horrific thing to her ex, bro, you're not special.
Unaanza kwanza na
don't think they're
investigation.
imagining that you're the one who is baby sana, unapendwa sana, blah blah blah. Remember, every ex was once told they're loved. They were once told they're the best thing that has ever happened since sliced bread. They were once told all these nice things. So for love to turn into extreme hatred to the point where you want to finish someone and finish their career. Ukisikia dem anakuambia ati I chopped his academic papers.
Joe end next.
Bro.
But now it will not be papers. Yaga itakuwa papers sasa.
Na itakuwa papers.
Itakuwa apparatus.
Sijui, even those things of Sijui, I took his phone, I put it in a glass of water. There are some things that normal people don't do to people. Even in the height of their being mad about a situation. Those things come and fester because people keep on testing the limits.
Yeah.
She will do the whole thing.
How much you can tolerate.
Yes, they will drop the glass, the phone in the glass today. Tomorrow they might do a stomping on it. The next day they might throw your clothes out of the window. They might even ban them. Itakuwa sijui ni academic certificates. One day they'll ban you with hot water. I saw a picture of a guy who was burnt with hot water this week. I should have sent it to you guys. Uko by the wife because the wife found out ametumia iPhone to the girlfriend. Amemchoma bana back vibaya sana. It's not okay, a Kenyan. But these things are also happening here. And females are just as violent as males. It's no longer a story. The males are just only violent. These people who are, what are they called? The guys who are chopped at night.
And they remove transformers.
Well, I would do a transformer. At one point or another, that transformer gave them pleasure.
Yeah.
Now they're uprooting it.
Transformer ilikuwa imeleta stima siku moja.
Bro.
Kuna wakati transformer ilikuwa
see the signs. Because I know there are men who are listening to us who are with such women today.
And they think they'll change.
And you think you are the one who is the master, and the captain of the boat. Bro. But
even the biggest question now is, when it comes to punishment, of course, let's look at the case, for instance, of rape. When it comes to punishment on men, I mean, it's not negotiable. I mean, you can be dealt with very squarely without even much ado. without any time that you're given to prove yourself innocent and all that. It's and we live in a world where the court of public opinion counts more than the law in itself. And you find men, there are a lot of men, if you go to jail, that's why there are more men in jail. There are a lot of men who are in jail for totally the wrong reasons. Or totally there are many men who are innocent but in jail. Now, is it possible also to put a legal stopgap measure against women, of course, who punish men with lies like this, who accuse men of things like this? You know, I know very well that I didn't interview. But I'm seeing you being taken through the process of court and you're being judged and condemned. Even if you're not taken to court, the court of public opinion in itself is even worse. There are a lot of people who are committing suicide because of trolling and bullying online. And a lot of men have been subjected to this. Is there a law? Is there a legal way that is there a law that can be put to protect women? And I think that's the same, to protect men. And that's the same question that Moses is asking. Is there a law that can actually be formulated to deal with people who falsely accuse men of such grave matters? Is it possible? Is it possible to regulate?
Right now, we don't have a law. And
There's actually a law.
Which one is that?
There's a law that says, like, if you accuse someone of rape, you're eligible for, like, serving the same sentence, the same person. But it's not really enforced. It's never talked about. Yeah,
because you see, like for us, this presumption of innocence, when it comes to matters of rape, of course, in the public opinion, you're going to be judged, and it is very harsh. It needs a man who is very, very resilient. But I've also seen, I think there was a case that was very popular last year or the other 2 years, where a man was in jail for raping his daughter, in quotes. And it turned out that it is the mother who had coerced the daughter to do that, so that this guy could go to jail. So the thing I think is very, very rampant. Probably needs to be dealt with in a special way, so that the special circumstances that surround rape can be dealt with. But the good thing about, I think in the Kenyan context, what I've seen is that the threshold for rape is still pretty high. I don't think it is something that is taken very lightly. It's just that it can destroy your reputation. But in terms of the burden of proof, it is still pretty high.
But I think there must be a law that specifically deals with someone who tarnishes reputation.
I mean, gives men a defense line. You know, sometimes all you need is something to hold on. And like, guys, well, you're accusing me of this. There's something that you need to hold on. But you find a lot of times,
there's defamation, but defamation is scanty, and getting to prove it is quite a tall order. But right now I'm hearing women doing the clamor for, given this case that has just happened of this video, whose authenticity is not yet known, and saying, women need to be protected from such acts that target reputation.
Yes.
But we have not been as vocal when it comes to men and reputation. Yet reputation of men actually takes a really, really terrible hit and never really recovers. I mean, a guy who's been marked as a rapist has been marked as a rapist, kabisa. And even if you look at brand companies, they tend to punish men more when such things happen. Yeah. If it's a question of men and positions in society, they tend to be punished more. If it's a question of going to jail, surprisingly, even judges tend to hand out harsher sentences to men.
Yeah.
You will go, my brother, for 7 years, where a woman might go for 1.5, because they'll put mitigating factors. Pengine analea watoto, watakosa mama yao, who will run the home, blah, blah, blah. The woman will be given some, woyeness, and will get away with it. The dude will be thrown in and people will throw away the key. So there has to be a way that men are also protected from such kind of things, because, the reputation that men take is harder, and because they do not really speak, it then leads to depression. It leads to mental illness. It might even lead to suicide. Imagine your reputation is now tarnished. Somebody has said they are sorry. They are sorry.
What does it fix? Yeah.
For 2 years, this guy has been walking around. People have been knowing he's a rapist. Maybe even the songs that he was supposed to have sold have not sold as much as they have sold.
I hope he's going to sue, because
he's already saying that he's forgiving the chick and all that. But you see, now it's never about Will Paul anymore. It's about what the chick did.
It's a crime.
And it's all about the precedents. Because, you're like, I can do this and actually get away with it. I can accuse this person of this, stay for 3 years or 4 years, then I come back, I say, Salan, we forgive each other and we move on. But we don't think about the cost of that.
Yeah, because I think even this case of Willie Paul, if this maendeleo ya wanaume was functional, they should probably get an audience with him,
I know why he's not chasing. Even me, I never chased.
Yeah. Because also maybe you're tired of being portrayed in that negative light.
That you're also going to still be in engagement with this person, and this story will keep on coming back. It doesn't get buried.
You want it to die.
In Amka, as you keep on engaging and saying, you what you're in court, you just want to get rid of that story and get rid of that part and cut it out. So I totally understand.
But our parliament has been very progressive in terms of the kind of laws that they've been coming up with. Because it's our job as men to do it. The good thing with women, they're able to fight for themselves. It's also as men to push also members of parliament to try and come up with sensible laws that can also protect men. So that only rapists can actually go to jail, and you don't have people, their name being tarnished, and ladies not being held accountable in any way. Yeah.
On a scale of 10, how favorable is law to men?
No, of course, the law is very femicentric, out of necessity. It's not like it's a bad thing because women have to be protected. But I think in Kenya, I can say that favorably now, there have been like very good laws on marriage, on custody, on property, on divorce. So I think we're moving towards the right direction. Because MPs normally are the first one to be affected by these things. Some of them have actually come up with very sensible laws. Like the one that tries to stop like slave queens from taking advantage of them. Yeah, that's why like Honorable Kaluma is always coming up with very personal laws, but end up protecting us.
Out of experience.
But it's also I think the kind of discussions we are having are important because like Professor Colin Farrell said that the reason we as men we like portraying women as victim is because we have a low self-concept. We feel that we can only be useful if we are rescuing women. So that is also something that men need to think about. And there are so many cases where when you look at how a case is handled in court, like cases like child support, where someone is being accused of a deadbeat, the way a number of these judges handle those cases is the judge is sort of trying to make himself useful to the woman. So he wants to think of the woman as a victim and not as an agent that is actually capable of actually also dishing out what she's claiming that is being dished out to her. So there is that thing that is in the mental schema of men, that the women are victims so that they can actually rescue them, and it makes men feel useful.
Okay. All right, Paul Manotti, Karen Juguna, good evening to you, Karen, good to see you. Paul Manotti, the truth usually comes out. Men are suffering out here. If men decide to talk, the world will go deaf. Wow, okay. Joshua Barrow, 1 Timothy 5:8, but if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. Karen Juguna, red flag that she's cheating on him is that she is frequently enforcing that the man is cheating on her. Reverse psychology match? I don't know. Okay. Kabon Sarah, good to see you. In-laws nowadays are cancers in families. Code King, how do we ensure that men are protected and not making men look weak and getting the victim tag? We do not want men to cry around. We want men to be problem solvers. Okay. Very thin line on that. Or what do you gentlemen think? I think it's a very thin line. Very thin line.
It's a thin line. Because we are a law-abiding society. So when the law doesn't favor men, the men must be able to speak out. You can't say now men are looking weak and all that.
What do you think, Silas?
I still think that it's our responsibility as men. The far we've come and the laws that were made, they were necessary to protect women. But now women have pushed us so hard. It's also now, that's why we have parliament to continue making the laws progressively. And it's also a period of unlearning so many things that we learned. We've seen how, for example, in America, these things have been weaponized against men. And that almost came to Kenya because there was a time where judiciary was like basically an NGO. The laws and everything that was there, it operated like an NGO. But I'm glad when, like with Maraga coming, there's some bit of, it became a bit sensible. And I've been to a couple of like child custody cases. I've been following up, and the courts nowadays are a bit very friendly. And those women who, like 10 years ago, would go and make very insensible demands, they're no longer like
activists
tolerated. They're not tolerated. So that kind of activism we have people in the government who are very practical and very sensible. So we just need to push more so that there's some bit of equity and in the way that we come up with law. Yeah.
Where is the line between men being men and men seeking up?
There's nothing wrong with us speaking even about it, because you know what? Injustice is not a complete and firm tie. It must always be tweaked towards and must bend towards the cause of justice. And no one said it's a cemented thing that's tied down and that it's the end all in all. So when we talk about it, we are not trying to make men sissies. And you know, when women, who are probably the biggest propagators of saying that, they will say men are sissies until it's their sons. And then this injustice is on them. You've ever seen a woman and her son is being accused falsely? What happens? How crazy she gets? So we're not doing this for us here. We're doing this for your sons. We're doing this for your brothers. We're doing this for your cousins. We speak out because these things can happen until they happen in your home and someone is falsely accused. You will never know how hurtful it can be. And people who say that the truth hurts, have never heard what a lie can do. If the truth hurts, then a lie can put you in a coma. I tell you.
Okay. All right. A story, of course, is there's something since the advent of technology and mobile phones. There's been a continued attempt to blackmail and to take advantage of people. We'll not be very specific, but of course there was a former minister, presidential candidate who had a problem around 2 years ago. Was out on the limelight for all the wrong reasons. We've seen progressively issues coming out. This week we've also seen cases of footages and videos coming out that they should not. What exactly, how does this space operate, Jacob?
I think it's the same situation where you need to be selective who you associate with. So we have people who have very low morals, people who have nothing to lose. So I think particularly men in this case need to be very, very careful because in most cases, remember we say that women, for example, are the gatekeepers of sex. So men need to be very, very careful who they associate with, who they get into those kinds of engagements with, because that's how you end up with your video online. And also, I think for the most part, unless you are not a man who is very mature, the issue of, for example, of sending nudes and things like that, because in the course of a relationship, sometimes one partner can ask the other to send the nudes. Maybe there's a long distance between them and so on. So these are things men should stay away from, because once you send that nude, you cannot control what will happen to it from that point. So photos, the associations you have, the kind of associations you have.
Skip.
And
Bambe has decided to interview with your life.
and I think there was someone who was talking about the video. There's a video that we saw about someone saying that you should not fall asleep before being very aware of
He was actually here. That was Wakili.
Yes. So don't fall asleep. Don't allow these people to be touching
So
their
you cannot
phones.
sleep in enemy territory.
Yes, you have to be very, very careful. Yeah. So I think it's just about taking care of yourself. Yeah.
Okay. Silas.
When you're in a position of power, you are predisposed to blackmail so easily. And you have to be very discreet on how you go about these things. And as I always say, sex is not an emergency. And it's something that can wait for you to vet and know the person that you're associating with. But you see, the people at the top, sometimes power gets in their head and they think they can get away with anything. Or where they think that they're invincible and nobody can touch or come after them. And they do make those kind of mistakes, but they also associate with these riffraffs, hoodrats. And so like a couple of years ago, there was this guy, I don't know, from Tanzania, a very skinny guy who was known to be rocking the beds of women in parliament,
Oh,
So you look at the kind of characters that they associate with them.
He was a kissy.
He was from your backyard.
He was a kissy from
It was
backyard.
actually a courier.
He is from your backyard, you guys.
Chacha is as a courier name as they get. But their role is rolling with this very fishy, like these people with very questionable characters. And if you're a high value person, please associate yourself with high value people. And it actually makes sense for you to be with someone who has something to lose. You don't go out with someone who like hata hizi jua penye anaishi, you don't know they a riffraff. So that's something that I always caution men at the top, and even women at the top. Your career can easily come to an end by a mistake that was completely avoidable. And also, people should learn to handle the alcohol, because alcohol sometimes makes us make very stupid decisions that we can regret. So you can only drink alcohol to that extent when you're in a very safe environment and nobody can record. Personally, like when I'm in a private space, I really hate guys who are trying to record anything, And if you're an old man and you're with young people trying to record TikTok, they're in the wrong crowd. Like when you come to Kitengela, you need to sit in a place, you're enjoying a rum or a whiskey, pole. There's no room for where like someone can just take their phone and start taking their nini. And in the bedroom, you really have to vet the people that you go out with, unfortunately. There's no substitute or shortcut when it comes to that.
Levi.
Well, I think definitely there needs to be a law against these people who record people without permission. Without your being aware, and it has to start even with the clubs. I've been to clubs and people are just recording people with abandon. It's a tabia that has taken off, and it's just not cool. And I saw today somebody was making noise about a recording they did at the airport. Some content
creator.
There got to be rules of engagement on these things, and then especially now in private spaces. The law definitely needs to be there. The lawmakers are there. They think they've said these things before. They've not gone ahead and done it. I don't know why, but since they are the ones who are lawmakers, they only know best on how fast they can move about these things. But even after the law being there are certain things. I agree with Silas on some of the things that they need to
self-management.
You need to adhere to as you continue. If you know that you are maybe somebody who likes to enjoy a few extracurricular activities. When you meet someone, because some people are doing this thing, and I'm not advocating for it, and it's not your
disclaimer.
I'm not advocating for it. But when you're in a position of power, why are you hooking up with somebody who's coming with their phone? You've got bodyguards, you take phones away. Na ucheze mchezo yako na urelease mtu achukue simu akienda.
Kuruzoeana, unajua labda si mara ya kwanza.
Hata kama
ya 5 ya 10.
We have heard of stories of certain senior guys who they go somewhere and the first thing you do, you deposit your phone at the gate, you check in, you check out. You have to protect yourself. Of course, the best remedy would be not to engage in such activities in the first place. But there is no foolproofness against morality. Some people will do what they will do. So if you're going to do what you're going to do, then buffer yourself by making sure that you take the necessary steps. And I must say finally that it's easier sometimes for people to go after you when you also expose yourself too much. Now, we're not blaming victims or anything like that. But you realize that when you are a high moral person, there's a tendency for you not to end up in certain places and certain situations.
You're almost safe.
Yeah. So you must also have that self-discipline, what he's talking about. Those things, not too much alcohol, not hanging around with just anyone, making sure that the people around you are really, the correct people. Okay, not over-trusting also people. Because we live in a world where sort of content creators are willing to create anything for content. Even what you are saying about the presidential candidate. Somebody just wanted to just maliza him. And there's always somebody sending you someone to try and finish you. I mean, if you're in the political game, you must know that. So with all that in mind, and given the fact that also Photoshoppers are here, then if we have a good and vibrant DCI system, who say that now they have a cyber security, and the first thing they should have been doing right now is first of all authenticizing the clip, making sure that it's actually authentic, and if it's actually authentic, then finding out who did it and nabbing them. But they need laws to make that happen, and that needs to happen.
But there's no complainant, and then it's you can't spend taxpayers' money authenticating a clip that.
But you see, if you do a clip about me, whether it's true or not, the first thing I must do is complain.
But
if it's a fake trip, I must complain that
The clip was
this thing is
it was
fake.
just circulating. I think the clip was just
circulating. So far,
circulating.
there's no complaint.
There's no complaint.
The law-
Alright,
the law is like-
then it is what it is.
the law is like us. If you can protect yourself so that you don't find yourself in such a situation, all the better. Because now, even if the guy was to be taken to jail, the reputation
already
of
gone.
damage is
Yeah, because what they take away from you
that's
is
a
more.
tag that you live with.
It's more than a jail
In as
time.
much people forget, but it's a tag that you live with. For
And also Kenyans don't wait for forensics. By the time the forensics are being done, how many weeks down the line, your reputation is gone, man. It's gone. It's gone. You've been judged. Moses Gitao, cancel culture is a weapon being used. Nikal, Mr. Bishop, we talk. Can you check this man and you'll see another potential. Samson, okay, I'll check Samson out. Andrew Mutegi watching from Tharaka-Nithi County. Thank you so much, my brother Andrew Mutegi. John Mongera, good to see you. Nice. Sante Denokasi. Informed good work, guys. Kabon Sarah is saying, women of nowadays, Satan copy their notes. Men are once I pity. God cover all men. Huyu ni mwanamke ameturumia. Amesema tunamalizwa kabisa. Okay. Haya. Roy, good to see you. Williams, good morning from Kingdom. Kiongozi asante. Sarah Kabon, and if you see, women are the worst. For women. Okay, she's saying women are the worst, 85%. Atari, only 5% the problem of the few men are responsibility on their children. But for women, Atari kwa usalama. Yeah, okay, good to see you. Good job, Jens. Asante. In Sarah, and if you see a woman calling you Annie, darling, all sorts of good names, she's confusing you behind the back. Msururi ya wanaume ametuko hatari. Tunafanya tuanze kukataa kwenda kuitwa darling na Annie. Okay. Kipchumba K. Dan, good to see you, my brother. Good evening. Gerald, there is this idea where women, because of the love, protection, and care they obtain from their homes, who are your in-laws, then that becomes their license to terrorize you. She will disrespect you with impunity and feel protected by her people. These are the fellows who went into marriage and never arrived in. It's unfortunate. How do men safeguard themselves against in-laws with contempt? Wow, that's a good question, straight into the topic. VK Manyaki, as long as we don't have the conclusion of the conversation between Eve and serpent, then a lady in your house should just be treated like a neighbor. Why? Why? Senator George Kijabe, watching from the United States of Narok. Okay, I didn't see that coming. Joshua Baru, first time I read that. Karen Juguna, red flag. Kitua Kitonga, very eloquently put. Great show. Kudos for your viongozi wa Ponde la Ufa. Another story now that's coming up, of course, is Hakim. Now that VK has spoken, Hakim and the ex-girlfriend is the ex-wife. So the story has it, Hakim, of course, he's a footballer. The lady, I think, is an actress somewhere. He's been making his money. She's been making money. So they said to get married. But now Hakim, instead of putting money in his accounts or the family accounts, he banks with the mother. Anatumianga mama pesa kwa M-Pesa aenda aweke bank yake. Anaweka. Lakini they say don't try this in Africa. Adaenda apeleke kwa Pastor Ezekiel kutafuta nyota. So Hakim puts money there. And men have come in to celebrate Hakim for what he's done. And women have said they want a son like Hakim, but not a husband. And that is a double speak that Levi was talking about. Women are saying we want a son like Hakim, but not a husband like Hakim. Now, there's been information over time that if you go to many HR offices, you'll realize that women have put the husbands are not their next of kin. Siku moja utashangaa ile vitu mko naye na bibi kumbe hata iko kwa jina yenu. Iko mahali pengine. But anyway, what does it speak? Is that level of mistrust so deep that people have to outmaneuver each other in marriages? Jacob.
I think what is happening is that in many cases today, it has turned out that many women treat marriage as a hustle. So they marry so that they can divorce you and get split to whatever assets you are having. So it's because of this that so many men are so cagey about being open about the kind of money they're making or the kind of assets that they're having. Be that as it may, I'm not sure that Hakim's strategy, if you to a strategy, will be something that you can actually recommend for all men, because not all women are good financial custodians, and the good example is the one you've given. She could go to church and the pastor preaches that you bring everything you have, and she hands over your money to the pastor, and you find that you have no money. or someone can actually ask her to lend her some money and she gives out that money. So you can never be sure. But there are other ways actually of securing your assets that are much more reliable that a man can actually rely on if it were the case that they feel that their assets are under threat. But it also just shows you the institution of marriage, of course, is under threat. And as the two people who are involved, the two genders involved, we will need to find a way of resolving it. Because right now, the way men are seeing it, particularly westernized men, when you enter marriage, the marriage is no longer just you and the wife. It's you, your wife, and the government. And during divorce, the government sides with your wife. So that is why men are trying to protect themselves from these two parties. Yeah.
Okay. How deep does it have to get to that point, Levi?
What do you do that? I almost want to ask why. I'm actually not in support of what the guy did. I want to get to the root cause and ask him why did he even get involved with that girl in the first place. Like, if you don't trust someone, why are you getting married to them, honestly speaking? The reason why they created the word prenup was for that. If you feel like you don't trust your girlfriend, tell her, look, mimi niko na mali yangu, sign here, ukiniwacha, you're getting nothing. Be a man and be very straightforward from the beginning. Don't marry someone and then hoodwink them, imagining that you're together and you're not together. Because the whole concept of marriage, and that's where you're going on, was in the first beginning, was to marry two people together, to marry their thoughts, their ideas, and definitely their finances. This idea that, you come into marriage but you're keeping your things, to me, be single, stay alone. That's why get married. What's the point? What are you getting married for? If it's sex, you can get sex.
Children.
If it's children, you can get children. Really?
And the remote race.
Why are you going through the motions of going through to commit to each other and sign on a piece of paper? For what purpose?
Okay.
That's what I can ask.
So you don't understand why?
I don't understand.
But now the hypocrisy of women of saying, yes, they're cheering Akim as a son.
They are bad women. I'm not going to absolve that. There are definitely bad women who will hide their money from you. There are definitely bad men who will make sure that they live a very a double life. And that is why dating and getting to know someone is important. And I want to assure guys, marriages are not risk-proof. This thing is the ocean. We are all in the boat. There is a good chance we are with someone who will look at us tomorrow. Or they might stay with us tomorrow. Even my own marriage. Everybody, yani. But this is part of the whole marriage thing. You've got to get into the boat. If you want to get into the boat, then prepare for the sharks. If you can swim well and good. But there is no way you can tell yourself you're going to completely know what an individual is going to do for the rest of their lives. No, you're not going to know. Neither are you going to say you will live a life where you're buffering yourself for the rest of your life. If it makes you an extremist where you must buffer yourself completely, be alone by all means. Because there is some amount of risk you're going to have to give your wife. There's some amount of risk you're going to have to give your husband. And that's just the fact of marriage. Spend or spend. Otherwise, don't enter the boat.
Okay. All right. Silas.
Yeah, first of all, I think that Akim story has not been verified to have been true, but the kind of excitement it generated goes to show how torn apart the world is. We used to expect that marriage is something that marriage is actually an economic unit. And it's supposed to come together, man and woman, and you create wealth so that you can bequeath it to your children. But that's no longer the case, because most women increasingly they are schemers. When you're marrying, you might think that she's coming into your life with good intentions, but they're actually scheming. And they're just waiting for you to just trip, make a very human mistake, and they have an excuse to quit. So that has necessitated for men to start thinking on ways to protect themselves. And I think even in Kenya, stuff like prenups will become very common, because as long as you're a man and you have wealth, and a woman is coming into your life, she can mess you up. In America, they call it divorce rape, because a man, after divorce, you're likely to be affected economically, because you're the one who invests the most in a marriage. You're the one who's going to buy the stuff, the furniture, you're paying the rent, you're doing everything. Rarely do women and it's funny, I learned even in America this is the case. women rarely do they put on their weight on the table. So when she studied it, she just goes, and then as a man, you realize that you've been spending money and you've spent so much on the marriage, and she just walks away, and then she's entitled to a portion of what you have, and also you're going to send child upkeep. It's very expensive, for that. So that's why men are now learning out the best way that they can protect themselves. And I'm sure lawyers even in Kenya now are helping men to come up with better strategies that they can protect their wealth. Because you don't want your wife amekudivorce mazana kula mali yako na benten wake and it's your sweat band.
hata anakula kabla hajakudivorce bado anakula. So whether you do, you are still damned. You don't, you're still damned. Sasa imeshakuliwa tayari. Sijui unaweka wapi. But anyway, I think if it gets to a point where you're constantly living with such fears and insecurities, then you actually don't deserve to be that person, because it means then there's some level of doubt that you have on the character of that person. That maybe she doesn't have the best interest for you, or he doesn't have the best interest for you and your family, what you're building. It means there's some level of doubt. So, of course, most of the things happen in situations where you're seeing an imbalance, especially of age. And maybe in westernized countries, it could be an old guy who is picking a small chick, or an old chick picking up a small guy. So those are most of the time the tendency, because a lot of time in such setups, you question the intentions of the relationship. The real partners, I don't know. That's what I would think.
Yeah, but I also think that we need to it's about being pragmatic and being cognizant of how human beings have become and how the institution of marriage has become. So I do not think that it's a bad thing, for example, to have a prenup. If you are aware of your existing laws and the statistics, what they are showing, you need to protect yourself. It's only responsible. So people need to find a way of protecting themselves, because, if you are to marry later on in life, maybe in your 40s or late 30s, then you can talk about you being equally yoked. And equally yoked means you marry someone at your level. So if this lady has a career, you also have your career. You each get your lawyers, they do the prenups, and then you're each protected from each other. But most marriages normally start when the guy is ahead in terms of attainment or accomplishment, and the lady is young. And you find that in case of a divorce, this guy actually stands to lose more. That is a challenge, and it's the imbalance that many men are actually concerned with trying to address. Fortunately for this Hakim fellow, the wife was also, I think, a musician or an actress. She was an actress. And apparently she also had a wealth. I think we'll see how the case plays out.
Yeah, that transactional story is really, it just amuses me so much, because, when you say they want to protect themselves from each other, it's like, man, you kind of know you're entering the union with your enemy. Tayari unaingia na mabuffers, both of you meva ma paddings.
Yes.
I really wonder why people are doing it. I think you can live in this life very, very well without having to marry somebody. You can have children. The people who have done it. Look at Oprah and that guy. Okay, today if Oprah and Stedman Wachana, she's got all her money. You don't have to enter into the word marriage and then spend so much time trying to buffer yourself from the same marriage you're entering into. Just don't walk in the door. Just don't walk in the door. There's no point. Because if you walk in the door, the initial concept of marriage never meant for people to enter into. These are modern age things where people have come up with prenups and all this buffering. Because some marriages have gone bad. And not all marriages have gone bad. But the ones that have gone bad, we've heard a lot about them in terms of, the worst of their kinds and the things that have happened and how men have been treated badly and how women also have ended up, getting the short end of the stick sometimes, or sometimes ending up with the bulk of the wealth. But the truth of the matter is, for even those guys who did that and they made their mistakes, yes, they regret. They don't regret getting a prenup. They regret marrying that woman to begin with. So, cut the river Uko at the top. If you feel that you're a guy and you're wealthy and you are doing well and you feel like your money could be shaken by these two small girls you're checking, and every time you meet them they're asking you for the latest iPhones and asking you to take them to Diani and Ukunda and all that nonsense, na unaona huyu mtu ataka serious sana, usimuoe bro.
No, but Levi, I don't think that's the point. The issue is, are there risks in marriage? If the answer is yes, can they be addressed, yes or no?
But you see, here's my problem. You see, once we start, I think personally, if I entered into a prenup before I got married, I don't think I would ever get any amount of trust on the person I've taken. So why am I trusting them with my body? But I can't trust them with my resources. You know, my body is very special to me. Or some people don't even get to see that. You are actually uniting with somebody in one. But people want to separate and make money the key factor. Why am I trusting them by sleeping next to them every night? And when I'm asleep, they could take a fork and puncture me in the brain. Why am I doing that?
And get arrested.
Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
There's already a lack of trust. And like I said, this marriage can't be risk-free. It cannot be risk-free. I'm seated here right now. My wife is abroad. It's a risk. Tomorrow she could meet someone. I could meet someone. It's a risk. We are both trusting that maybe we are going to try and be together, but it's a risk. It's a risk that people have to overcome. We can't shenga that story. So people must be told, we must teach people that there is no way to bulletproof a marriage. The only way to bulletproof a marriage is by trust, and if there is no trust as a major currency, forget about it.
Another thing is, let me ask you, I want to understand this. You can trust to sleep with someone every single day in your most vulnerable moments. Sometimes maybe you're high, you're blaky, and you're okay with sleeping with that person. But property is where you draw the line. Now, imagine
that's why they say money is the root of all evil. Okay. Money changes people. Money is not the same as sex and intimacy and so on. Money, even if you look at the Bible, they say Jesus was sold for 30 pieces of silver. So money is different, and I think we have to appreciate and accept that we can dissociate our emotions from money. These are very pragmatic decisions. Like if you have a business empire, I think the example that is normally given is, imagine a situation where if you look at maybe someone like LeBron James, maybe he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. If you had something that you've kept hundreds of millions of dollars, and then someone wants to come into that room, imagine the kind of vetting that person will have to go through. You probably need a letter from so-and-so, they have to check your background and so on and so forth. And then there are also safeguards also around it. It's the same thing, because men work so hard to create or build their wealth, and you need to have a way of building these assets, because human beings change. Human beings' motives change over time, and also a human being can come into a marriage. You can actually fall in love with the person whose morals you are not very clear about, because human beings are capable of deception. Human beings are capable of betrayal. These are facts. And if you find a situation where you have a lot of wealth, there are actually legal safeguards you can put in place to protect your wealth, even within the institution of marriage. Because these things, statistically, these things happen, and they happen a lot. And it doesn't mean that the people that they happen to are maybe worse or better and so on. You just need to, I think what we normally say is, you need to enter into the marriage with your eyes wide open. It doesn't mean now that you're not going to be able to fall asleep. It doesn't mean you don't love the other person. It's just being pragmatic, because times have changed. Yeah.
You're not an exception.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, unless there's anything that you...
No, I would like to say, like, all these things are necessary for men to protect themselves, because it's men who lose the most in divorce, especially in terms of material stuff. So that's why, like, men have to find a way that they can protect themselves, because the threshold of divorce for men is so high. Like, for you to drop your wife, she has to do something extremely outrageous, You'd rather marry a second, if in Kenya, second wife, have a clan day, but for you to drop your first wife and children, the threshold is very high. But this modern women, she can just walk out with 3 children.
Those of an SMS.
Yeah, those of an SMS, hypergamy, like there's so much that, like women are, nowadays, like they can just walk out. The motivation to leave is so, they just leave. Yeah. Okay. Like there's nothing to hold them back if they want to leave. So as men, the responsibility is on us not to protect ourselves. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That is it on the conventions about.
So maybe the thing is, if you start noticing, because these things are not overnight. Maybe the case would be, a marriage doesn't break just today. The signs are already. You have been with the person. You've seen the signs. You've seen things are happening. Then the buffering, perhaps, if you want to go and now do your things, put some money away. You should begin to do that as soon as you see the signs. Same thing for ladies, but it's because I don't think it just happens. Somebody just switches off tonight. Utaona ma signs unless you really. Kama unaishi na mtu, you'll be able to tell that this thing is not going, anywhere. And I do agree. People can change completely, and somebody can be so drastically changed from the time you married them to the time that you are leaving each other. But you'll have seen the changes if your eyes are wide open. The problem is most men think that they'll be able to control the situation.
You think they're an exception?
And don't expect that the thing will actually go towards the very end. But you see the ball rolling and you think at the end, it will not help you. And also I think the other issue is we also need to be legally aware. Because not all laws are just bashing men. Some laws are actually cutting things right in the middle. I've got a friend who just divorced the other day. Walipata kila kitu 50-50. But even the woman had a lot of property. And he actually gained a few things there as well.
Win-win.
Yeah, so it's also just to let yourself be aware of what is in the marital game, get to know it and to know what can work for you, what cannot work for you. And I think those are for those guys who have gotten there. But I also say, but for the guys who have not gotten there, if you're dating, hey, take your time. Don't jump into this story just because you have got good feelings, or you had a wildly good time last night, or you are thrown up and down, and you're thinking this is the best I've ever had. You must go beyond you must go beyond that and chambua the kind of person you have. Maybe even when you're dating, try and invest, bring the money aspect. I think one of the problems is many of us who dated never brought in the money aspect into it. We never tried to invest together with the person we were dating and just tested to see how do we handle money together. It's very easy if I'm paying all the bills.
Yeah.
And the wife is coming, girlfriend is coming, unamlipia, mnaenda out, mnapiga malap, nini. It's easy. No, there's no question of real money because you drop her at her place, she goes and does her things, you do your things. Put your money together, kidogo tu on a project here and there, and test that story. The attitude that somebody has there will tell you everything you may need to know, because sometimes it's very difficult to know what someone will do, or even put money together, decide that apart from your two accounts, drop some money in one account, and then one day kula tu hiyo pesa kidogo. Usikie tu reaction. These things are testing ground for everything, by the way. That way maybe you can get to see the mind frame of what that person is in terms of a financial space they are in. But the problem with most of our dating scenes is we are only thinking about the good times, the more enjoyers.
No critical questions, no critical conversations.
The bedroom activities. And so, based on that and nothing else, we walk into a marriage. It's going to fail.
Unapigwa na shock.
It's going to fail.
Although, but what he's talking about, that may help you to evaluate whether she sees you as a better male provider, not whether she intends to use this marriage as a hustle. The issue is nowadays, you can even find a woman who is married very well. She's settled in a marriage. Then some wababas start coming into her Instagram DM and telling her how nice she looks. And they start selling 50K, 200K. Maybe you are struggling to get her 5K. Then she decides, I can do better if I am leaving this marriage. Then she leaves the marriage, you see. And now at the point she's leaving, you have to split this property. So she leaves you in a mess. Yeah. So I think basically, the idea is you cannot be able to tell from the beginning exactly how things are going to turn out. But I also think it's an issue of culture. Because the way, for example, Levi is seeing it, it's like if you're having this kind of discussion about prenups and how to safeguard your property before marriage, it's almost like it's diluting the bedrock of marriage. She feels marriage should be based on trust, and now you're actually expressing a lack of trust. But in the US, many people don't have an issue with it. If you find as a couple, people have no issue signing prenups and so on and so forth. But I also think it also goes again with how far you've advanced in terms of accumulating assets and property. Most times, if you're marrying a woman who has nothing, and you're telling about the prenup, she feels like you're trying to deny her what she thinks she should be getting by joining the union. Because many women actually get married to survive. They get married to get a better life, a lifestyle, and so on. Very few cases will you get now the woman actually has a money and she's doing very well and she's very eager to get married. And also that's one of the reasons why the liberation of women has also introduced the rising number of single mothers and single women, because they feel if they have money, the incentive for marriage is also diminished or minimized. So if you find a situation where you're getting this lady, she's not very rich or very endowed in terms of assets, and you're telling her, you see, we need to sign this prenup, and she's viewing you as a millionaire or a billionaire, then it sort of removes the sweetness from the idea of marriage. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Hii topic imetupeleka mbali sana. Tumelose the
Tumeona 20 minutes past 8 p.m.
Yeah,
Let's dive straight into the conversation of the day. And in-laws, when your in-laws become your outlaws, when your in-laws become outlaws, have you ever had a bad experience with in-laws, Levi?
Hey, well,
Or asking which of the in-laws?
what kind of a question is that? Which ones? Usually, unajua unaanza na hii question ukipelekeanga Aliet.
General.
What's the story here? What are you trying to do?
Okay, sawa. Jacob.
What are you saying?
As a general rule,
The microphone was leaving.
as a general rule, you should not make it about someone. Like when you ask someone, have you ever had a bad experience? The in-laws are watching. What do you want them to say?
What do you
Wacha tuuliza Silas mmoja ana kesi na mtu kesi ilisha. Have you ever had a bad experience?
No, I've been very fortunate that I've never had any bad experience. But I know, it's a serious problem in many marriages.
At least you say I know someone. Even if you don't want to say.
No, I know many
Nasema kina Levi na kina
people.
Jacob.
I know many people have been messed up with mother-in-laws, father-in-laws, brother-in-laws. Yeah.
I keep a good distance. But I'm really good friends with my brother-in-law, for example. We cultivated. But I would say in terms of general in-laws, I've come to understand why Zamani people kept a distance from the in-laws. It wasn't meant to be offensive. It was meant to keep respect, because you don't want to get into any kind of suko. So I'll tell you what happens in my home. If there is anything involving an in-law that I may not like, for example, or may not feel like this is correct, then I tell my wife and she handles it. And vice versa. I've not had an altercation on a one-on-one, having to say, this. And thankfully, it has worked well for me up to this point, and I believe it will continue to work well. And it gives me no ground to get into any kind of, one-on-one bounce off with an in-law, because I want to be honest and just say this. In the event that you have an altercation, a serious altercation with an in-law, and it comes into your marriage, I kid you not, your wife is not your relative. And she has been with these people longer than you. They grew up together, they chased at Kalongo, they did all those things. The same applies to your in-laws. The first instinct is always to try and deter your person, the person that you got. And then that can really escalate into something that you may not want. So if you can try to avoid it. And even when we say there's good friendships, you have got good friendships, but then there's some topics you discuss. Let's say you discuss politics, and you're in Azimio and they are in KK, and you discuss na unaona inakuwa moto. You as a person who is married there should be cognizant of the fact that you need to shuka from some things to allow some people to have an opinion that you may not necessarily swallow, so that you don't get to a point where you are clashing. Because if you do clash with your in-law, it will come back to the house and it will bite you. And who wants that? Once you're married for some time, you realize kuna shida zingine utaki kuleta kwa nyumba zinaanzisha. Already you've got many other problems you're dealing with. Maybe you don't like how you're already gwarusanad over how you came home last night, what you did with the money, how you handled this or that. You want to add in-laws to that story? No, you don't.
Jacob.
Yeah, so I think in general, you need to have boundaries with your in-laws, and
also who are in-laws. Maybe you can help us just understand who are in-laws. In-laws ni kana nani?
Yeah, in-laws, of course, the relations that you get through marriage through marriage. And the way it was done is that a man, at least when he was getting married, you needed to have your own house or your own home. And you find in many cases where in-laws are embroiled within a couple's issues of marriage, it's where either they're living together or they have not been able to disentangle from each other. So you'll find, for example, that the man or the lady is calling the father or the mother every day, you know. They're still keeping this, there's no distance. Like now, ule alioleka, ule saizi yako na familia yake. Now that's when you find you have, you're beginning to have these interactions. Or they in a situation where they're living together, then you find there's a problem. Maybe father-in-law, ameenda akalewa, amerudi kama anaimba some funny songs, he's singing circumcision songs, you know, things that bring disrespect. Ama in the process, maybe he's slightly drunk, anafanya kitu, or he says something that is not respectful, or they get into a quarrel with the wife or the daughter and so on. So having that distance is very, very important so that you don't end up in situations that are awkward or compromising, because some of them are also compromising situations where maybe mtu ametoka kwa bafu amefunga towel and they meet the wrong person in the corridor and things like that. So that distance is very, very important in terms of managing how you're going to be relating with your in-laws. That's fundamental. Yeah.
Okay, Silas.
Yeah, inevitably the nature of life in Africa means that you'll have to interact with your in-laws from time to time. If you're a married man, probably, and maybe your wife comes from a poor background, chances are that a brother or a sister might come to stay with you. And how you engage with in-laws is usually a question of like, uko na pesa ngapi? If you're a rich man, they say that you relate with them. If you're a poor man, they say that you relate with your in-laws. But in Kisii,
it depends.
In Kisii, we sort of like have like an written rule that the only time you should interact with the in-laws is during a funeral or when someone is critically very sick. Others hapa katikati, you have no business with your in-laws whatsoever. Unless like there's maybe some inevitable ceremony where you bumped into each other. And Kitamba used to see, of course, because marriages were intact and all that, they could check on each other. But nowadays, because nobody's sure about anything, I think that's just more, that distance keeps on growing. But for men, because this is a men-only show, it helps to keep a safe distance from in-law, because there's a lot of disrespect that can come if there's too much familiarity. And familiarity is the breeding ground for contempt. And I know a couple of friends. Unapata bibi yako na dadako hapo wamekaa wanakusengenya. Wako tu kwako lakini wanakusengenya, you know. I've seen where in-laws, like sister-in-laws wanakuja and they mess with their marriage because they're feeding your wife a lot of nonsense, and wife is easily swayed because she's torn between her family with you and her main family where this other family where she was born to. So another thing that causes problems with the in-laws is as a man you lack that frame in your marriage, whereby sometimes I've seen in-laws dictate marriages. Unapata in your marriage father-in-law ama mother-in-law ndiye ana decide nini inafanyika hapo, you know. Sometimes I've seen marriages where your wife, whatever she earns, she repatriates back to her family, and now you have to take care of this family that you have with her. So I think those are discussions that as a man, you ought to be very firm on how to handle them so that you respect them. And in the event where there's need to help, like for example, you're in a position to help and akona dadaka na style kusaidia maybe school fees ama kazi mahali, those ones you can do. But there ought to be like strict laws on how you deal with them. Because I think most African women have taken advantage of men for far too long. And because your wife will not tolerate in-laws from your side. They're usually very impatient. It's very easy for in-laws to come and live with you guys than for your sister or your brother akuje kuishi na shida. And most men just learn to look the other way. Wanna ignore, and then until now you are dead, and then our family start squabbling. Most of these problems you see around funerals. People trying to square those unfinished businesses.
busy.
So as a man, you have to lay the laws down. You have to lay the ground rules, of course, being fair and being reasonable. Yeah.
All right. Talking about distance that Jacob has raised, I don't know what it takes as a man, first of all, to sleep at your in-laws. I see a lot of men these days, they're sleeping at their in-laws.
He has just he has reminded me of a certain case, you know, and that is why it's also very important to have a masculine frame. You have a case where you are a young man, you're just starting off life, maybe you're in your late 20s, and you're marrying this lady from a very rich family. Pengine mnaishi huko umoja. Father-in-law anasema no, you cannot live with my daughter here. So we're going to get you an apartment in Lavington, and I'm going to take care of it. So you pack your things and you leave. You see? Or you find a situation where you are starting off at your wedding. Anakuambia zawadi yenu wedding gift is a house. Sasa umeishi kwa nyumba baba-in-law amekupatia. Now imagine a situation where you have a disagreement with this lady, and she tells you, you know, unaambiwa sasa hii babangu wewe ndio unaenda, you know, it creates a lot of disrespect, and that's why that boundary is very, very important. And I think most of our cultures, they are very strict also about mambo ya kulala kwa in-laws. Also, it also creates it brings you in such close proximity. It creates that contempt na kuzoeana vibaya. That's why unapata saa zingine mtu amepita na mother-in-law, sister-in-law and things like that. So those boundaries are very, very important. And I think that is the organizing principle around how to deal with in-laws. And Silas has said it, I think it's also true. In many cases, you find the black tax comes in. If she's from a family that is needy, you may need to support the younger siblings and maybe even the parents. Many people have actually even gone ahead and built houses for the father-in-law, the parents-in-law, and so on and so forth. But boundaries are very, very important to maintain.
Distance and boundaries, like, would you sleep at your in-laws? Na ulale vizuri na usingize. Kesho unazunguka na kinyasa.
You know, it's funny that we are talking about this in 2023.
But it's happening. I see guys.
It's even happened to a guy I know, and we were like, dude, really?
Ulipataje usingizi?
Yani, you know, like, really. And I lala kwa main house.
Kera.
But you know,
in fact, kama ni kulala hotel yenye ni 50 kilometers away.
I know. Even it's funny that we are having to teach this thing at this moment in time and to talk about it, but yet there are so many men. And I realized, okay, we are modern. Squeeze it, easy to high five with your father-in-law, have a chat with him, go play golf or whatever he does, hang out with him, watch TV, watch a football match, and you know that's good. It creates some camaraderie. It makes it easier for you to get along with your in-laws. It's an excellent thing in terms of relationship. But I think we are reaching a point where men are having to be given classes on this particular topic here and how to handle about it, because there are things there they don't realize that come back to bite us. Too close and you create familiarity, which can create a problem. It can make it easy for even not just a problem in the case that you might kosana, in the case that you can have certain conversations that you're not supposed to have with your in-laws that will come back and bite you when there's a probo. You know, you confide in something genuinely, umekuwa beste, then you kosana with your wife a little bit. Maybe she runs to her in-laws or she mentions something to them, and then you hear it from huko, jamaa hata nisemanga hata nini anakuanga na hii ugonjwa fulani hii nini. You will not aliwaishi kwa na kaswende kwa you are the one who, and it's you are the one who give all that information. You don't even realize you're chasing those games of you're too familiar, too rigid, and it looks like you are, you know, taking their girl and you're a slave driver. You don't want to talk to her family. You don't even want to know where they live. You're just a bogus guy. So you have to do a balance. And this balance, no one can really teach you how to balance it. You have to weigh for yourself and see the do's and don'ts. So maybe we should spell out for the do's. Number one, don't sleep at your in-laws place. By all means. If you cannot afford a hotel, travel back. Leave your wife there. You know. And that should be a fundamental kabisa. You do not want a situation where you are entertaining the thought of your mother-in-law at night, imagining what you are doing to her daughter in the next bedroom. For you, it's excellent. If she screams out loud, it's not excellent to the mother-in-law. The looks you'll get in the morning are not good looks, bro. You don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. If you can avoid conversations that either borderline on you overexposing yourself, please do. Don't give out state secrets.
But it also means you should not be drunk around your in-laws.
You should not drink around your in-laws. Oh Lord, no.
But I've seen men who
idiots
and then a father-in-law
wanapiga kamzinga hapo watu wanapiga mastori. The propensity to say nonsense is so high. You do not want that at all.
Bro.
Bro. Unajua bro, me I just love you guy, man. I just love you guy.
Unaona hiyo mali imepita.
Their father-in-laws were actually a vibe.
But you see, the problem is that you're the one who's on the losing end. Because chances are that you cannot hold him accountable, but he can hold you accountable. So chances are that if at times go by, you mess and build up, and keep breaking down the wall for yourself. Yeah. Tomorrow when there's a problem, you have a very small line of defense. Because you can't
say that. Yeah. And me, I'm just going to outside. Also, if maybe you are the one who was seduced and you are given a house as a present, please sell the house.
Amen.
But
don't live in that. Do not live in that.
Just even rent it out.
Let me tell you.
Will you be allowed to sell it?
Rent it out if you have.
Yeah, but rent the house.
The original sin.
Don't live in the house.
The original sin is marrying above your class.
My brother, we said it last time. If you can avoid doing that in the first place, avoid it. But let's say you may jump your...
But if it happens now, what do you do?
Now here you are, you're being given a house.
Let me tell you, 90% of the time, you marry outside your class. Chaos. Because as human beings, you're associative, like we met associatively, like you should marry within your class, your tribe, education, whatever, If
the roof over your head is not a roof that you
step out of that
you paid for.
Rich men are very protective of their wealth. So if you marry the daughter looking like Ujama, so they'll never respect you.
And they'll not give the house to you what you need. It will be probably
to manage you.
Even if it's under both your names. You know what happens? Arguments are there in marriages. People, I know some right now guys are listening and they're lovey-dovey, they've locked hands together, they've exchanged, t-shirts, they're wearing those ones of, I love you so much. They're doing all the emojis and stuff. Every text is full of kisses and blah, blah, blah. You're not imagining a day is coming when this mama will tell you're just a useless bagger who my dad gave you a house.
Wow.
And she'll say that.
That day will come.
This is a camera.
That day will come. Prophesy. If you live in that house, that day will come as sure as the sky is blue. It will come. So you know what? The only way to avoid it. Don't take it. Don't even be cheated at and don't work for your father-in-law. Najua hakuna makazi. Bro, don't. There are those small things. You set yourself up for depression issues later. We cannot tell you the amount of men. You guys will talk about it even. The amount of men who have been... They took something on a good scale. They were in a dark place. The father-in-law offered a helping hand. They went and worked for his company. And it came back and beat them in a very big way. You see a guy just seated over there. He already has problems like the rest of us do. You're looking for money. You're looking for things. But the words that your wife can say to you are special, you guy. They can knock you off your feet. They can kill you. They can put you in the ground. They can make you never, ever have an erection again. I'm telling you. And they can completely emasculate you. You need to know the things that can, that can come up about these things. And it's so funny that we don't have enough men who are even older than us who are saying these things as clearly as we are today.
We are the older men.
We are the old men. Sisi ndo tuko. Wacha tuseme sisi ndo tuko. Easy vitu bana. We have to be so careful about those things because Your father-in-law will respect you more. You go live in your shack. Tell your wife, this is what I can afford. Akiamua kukaa naye kwa your shack, excellent for you, good for you. You got a good woman who will stick with you until you make it. If she decides she's not sticking with you, she was not yours in the first place. Get the one who can live in your shack and whose father-in-law can respect you living in that shack. Obvious, Do not move from Eastlands to Runda because you are given a house there in Runda and you want to live in Runda, and now Eastlands is the place you could afford, but here you are stuck in Runda under a house that's not yours, that you can be kicked out of any time.
And don't
do it. I'm so passionate about this because this has happened to someone I know. I don't want to go too far because they might even be listening. But you can imagine the pain of the years of work and study and nini. And I'm not just using one incident. Just go and sit in a divorce courtroom and listen to stories of men and cases and how X man was given X this, X that, X what. Even a car. Gari tu inafanyanga mtu anakuwa na kiburi style gani. Unaambia where did you take my car? Nini. Let me give you a story. Some years ago, I dated a woman who was a business lady. And this woman, she ran a successful business, and thus we were going, around doing business together. But she had a moti and I didn't have a moti. I'm telling you, you know how we ended up breaking up? This mama, we left a club with her. Arguments, 2:00 in the morning. She told me, get out of my car.
Get out of my car.
What? Get out of my car.
They don't play fair.
Shit. Nilishuka kwa gari.
Sanano usiku. Na uko maji mbaya.
Is there a comeback?
Nilishukishwa kabla ya stage.
Nilitembea. Kutoka unaona hapo nyuma ya nini, unaona kamlima kako nyuma ya junction hapo. Kutoka nyuma mpaka huko Madago na huko mwisho bali ilikuwa naishi 2am. Hiyo nini baridi nini. Do you know what I was just telling myself as I was walking? Levi, never again. Never. Let me tell you that. The following day kuniambia pole, sijui nini, I was drunk. Ilikuwa Johnny Walker, blah blah blah. I never listened to dates. And guess what happened? She went ahead, got married to another guy. That guy was thrown out unceremoniously.
Wow.
After about 6 years in.
Oh.
Those days I was drinking until I ever bought him a beer. And he's a good.
But
I remember this could have been me. Don't take those things.
You are not an exception.
This world was not created fairly to men for us to be, and I'm sorry I'm taking so much time talking about this. It was not created fairly for men to be the ones who are subservient. That's the truth of the matter. And the truth of the matter again is, even these women are always looking. They give you a car, they give you a house. At her job, if she goes and cheats on someone, it's someone above her grade. I kid you not. It's going to be her boss. It's going to be the MD. It's going to be the MP. It's going to be somebody who is having more financial say than she is. And it will be natural because women gravitate to men who are above their pay grade. Naturally. So don't start off with it. If money finds you along the way and she has got some money, excellent. You can find a way to circumvent that issue. But from the beginning, don't.
Get out of my car.
Yeah.
You guys, you need to get out of my studio. But these things happen. Actually, no. If I'm to describe, of course, you'll know the family. But there's a family that is well known in Kenya. Of course, as the daughter has been in and out of drama. And I know a guy who was involved in this chick for a while. The guy made the same mistake. And the guy also comes from a fairly good family. But he made a mistake to go and work for the other family. And then they moved into the chick's home, of course. Family home. And there's this camaraderie of, you're doing things together. You go to the office together. Fanya kazi na maadhe hapo, nini, na boda. As in you're interacting, you're working together. You're useful. Of course, Jacob ni aje, Silas, kuja, enda fanya ina, you do that. You hang out together. No, you hang out with this family more than, of course, you hang out with your family. So they become part of your identity. They become part of them. So, I don't know, someday something went up at work, went wrong in the office, to work in the company. This guy says he got home at around, of course, they'll start treating you for the call treatment ya kawaida tu. Maybe mama kuongeleshi, unafanya unaenda job, unatoka, unarudi, sometimes unasema Jacob kaji, let's catch a drink. But ni stress zako tu, piga ma story. So this guy passes by a joint. Akaenda kapiga tu drink na mabeshte tu, ile just passing time. Things are not good at home, of course. There are all these fights and all that. So this guy gets home at around 11 p.m. Akona ile nini ya black, ile babaki ya black ya garbage. Imekaa kwa mlango, ashindwa, kwani takataka leo ni aje imetolewa na weekday na ndo siku late. Jaribu kufungua mlango wapi. Rings the bell. Then he comes out and tells him, yeah, your clothes. The guy tries to, the mother-in-law shows up from behind.
Oh, they're teaming up.
11 p.m. bwana. Na umewekewa nguo yako si kwa suitcase, kwa karatasi ile ya takataka. And this is not even a poor guy. Guy comes from a fairly, offline I'll tell you the family. He comes from a good family. This guy's thrown out just like that. After almost close to 6 years. Working for the family, trying to work out the relationship and all that. The guy goes, katoka hapo without anything. For the work he has done for all those close 6 years in the company. Ametoka na hata si suitcase. Ametoka bana bro, yani ile hata suitcase unatoka na ile karatasi ya takataka. Hata unapatana na mtu, hata unapatana na mshiti wako kwa mlango ama jirani bro. So I mean these things happen a lot of times, and I think that the biggest danger, I mean we're not saying that they are not good families. They are good families that appreciate where every other person goes. But I think as a man you need to find your own world and space. Yes, it doesn't matter how small it is, but you need to find a space where you can retreat to and say this is my space.
Actually, that is what we're calling the masculine frame. Yeah. It's just that we're using terminology that is Western, but even the African culture also they gave a lot of value to the masculine frame. That's why it's normally said you need to, and that's why I think like even among the Luos, when a man reaches a certain age, he's supposed to build what we call a Simba. So this Simba it is your own house within your father's compound. But it's a preparation for you as a man to be able to have your own house, so that when you get a girl or when you marry a woman, you invite her or she comes and enters into your own house. So you are taught about these things early enough. So I think these lessons are really, really important. As a man, you must understand that adversity is the way. There's nothing that is going to be easy. So if someone, for example, is offering you a house, telling you are marrying my daughter, this is a house, that person is not actually going to be doing you any favors. You're going to lose respect, and you're going to delay your own development as a man. You need to go through the struggle, build your own frame, build your own house, make your own money. Do not rely on your in-laws for a source of income, because now when you're losing your wife, you're losing your children, you're losing your job, you're losing everything. So have something that is actually your own, that is not attached to the in-laws, so that now that's what we call unakuwa na heshima zako.
Hata kama ni kidogo ni yako.
Yeah.
Silas.
For me, I think I'll tell men that once you are married, you need to actively study the family that you've married into, and know the individual strength of each person in that family, from the siblings to the parents. And have a master plan on how to handle each of them. There are those who might not cause you trouble, but I've seen problematic relationships between the mother-in-law and the son-in-law or the father-in-law, and like the husband. So there's something I wrote in the memos about father-in-laws, especially who are rich and manipulative. And they want to control, like let's say like you married dad's daughter, like it's a daughter that the father loved so much. Now you have to control the two of you have to control the daughter, and she lean more towards the dad than she lean more towards you, unless you become really, really assertive, so that, as we talked about earlier, that those boundaries are there. So most men usually don't like read or don't study their in-laws well enough to know how to handle them, what they can disclose to them, what they can share to them. And when you come to their family, men who don't run their family affairs, the men who are wameachilia tu kila kitu tu, vitu zinarun on autopilot, they always find themselves in
just comes home for the landing.
It just comes home for the landing. Kila kitu inafanyika. So the wife runs the show. the mother-in-law runs the show, the father is running the show, where tu kwa hapo tu yani, you're like just a sperm donor to that family. You know, that one should not happen. That's how you, like the only thing you need to demand from your in-laws is respect. That one should not be negotiable. But remember, sometimes respect is earned. You can't demand
you carry yourself with
kama unaona tokelezea kwa matanga kama umelewa mpaka unaenda kwa huko chini. Nobody respect you. But it pays for you to like study the family you're marrying into and know the individual strength of each person. Labda kama kuna dadake mbaya ama bradake mbaya, you know how to put them in their place so that ndio heshima idumu baina yenu.
Heshima idumu. Are there bad in-laws? Just bad people. Totiana ni watu wabaya tu.
Yes, there are bad in-laws. For example, you can find someone grew up in a family that is full of a narcissist, or you find a father who is very domineering. And this domineering behavior or attitude, he wants to carry it on into your own marriage, where now he's the one who wants to see where his daughter is sleeping. He wants to come into the bedroom. Aone kama msichana analala mahali mzuri, what kind of furniture you have. He's going to tell you what kind of place are you living and so on. He'll want to tell you even how you're supposed to lead your life. So you can find those situations. You can also find a situation where there are certain bad behaviors that the in-laws carry into your marriage. For example, maybe you invited them to come for a birthday party or whatever it is, an event is happening, and they come when they are drunk. And when they are drunk, they are also disorderly. Maybe they are insulting people, or they are urinating in your sitting room, in your carpet. You know, they are breaking things like that. They start insulting the askari at the gate. They are making noise in the neighborhood, or they start a fight in a party. So those kind of things happen. You have certain behaviors, and I think that Silas has made a good point. You need to study the kind of people you are marrying into. And also if they also don't accept you from the word go. We have these cases where you meet a girl, maybe the girl loves you, but the in-laws really don't like you at all. Maybe they refuse to meet you, or they give you the cold shoulder or the cold treatment and things like that. Those are things you need to be wary of, because they will create tension in your relationship, especially if you're not able to take away the daughter or establish boundaries. Then it can be a constant pain to deal with those kinds of in-laws, because they'll try to interfere into your marriage. They will want to keep calling their daughters and insinuating maybe that they can say, for example, the daughter is looking thin, or the daughter is looking unhappy, maybe you are stressing her and things like that. So those cases are there. You need to be careful.
Okay.
I think definitely there's cases where there's bad in-laws, but I think the greatest buffer of bad in-laws is the person whose in-laws they are. You know, who is their immediate sibling. If it is your wife's brothers and sisters, then you know it's a discussion that you must have as a married couple. You know, one of the fundamental topics, away from finances and maybe how to manage yourselves in the house. The next topic of discussion for a newly married couple is handling of your in-laws. It must be hard. You must talk. The two of you must have a common ground and a common approach to how you tackle that situation. If you've got brothers who come and they are ordering your wife around and they are saying, you know, you're our wife, cook, pick ugali, nini, putting their feet on the table, nini, you should be the one who needs to protect her, to protect her from those kind of things. Because also imagine that in the event that you're not there, you know, these people will harass this mama and your children. You must be alive to that fact. You can see them, your uncles, the ones who are misbehaving badly, and those kind of things. She must also be alive to, because we all know, let me tell you, all of us know those family members of ours who are troublemakers. We know them. We try to keep them away from functions. We try to keep them from limelight. When we are talking, even in our negotiations, we say, hey, quietly in our families, we say, maze uncle so and so, achungwe. Asiongee sana, asiseme sana nini. Asichome. We already know the guys who are the criminals, so to speak, in our homes. So, having known them and now we are entering into a marriage, we must continue with that role as the defenders of the space that we are in. The only problem I see is if it comes where both of you are not defending that space the same way. Maybe your wife sees unaonea watu wake, and then that becomes a real problematic issue for you as a guy to know how to handle it. And this could be new because maybe when you are dating, you never really had to come into contact with the in-laws much. You know, suddenly you're married and, you know, people are in your house and they are doing things and, you know, they're jumping here and there everywhere. They are chavuaring your carpet, as Aliet says, you know, and you're thinking, wow, I need to step on this thing real hard. The bringing together of your minds and having a discussion is key, because if you allow your wife to get into that space and convince her and get her to see your point of view, it's better for you than if you went, you know, if you went ham on your in-laws. Because too much vitriol on your in-laws, and this very same wife of yours will tell you how you talk to her brother badly, how you talk to her dad badly, how you talk to, you know, her mother badly. It backfires on you. So get a common ground, protect each other. But you as the man, lead the way, because this ship is yours, and I always say you're the captain of the ship. You're the master and the controller of this thing. From the beginning, when you're talking, tell her, by the way, about in-laws. Don't ask her, what do we do? Tell her what we will do. This is what's going to happen. Don't go into those discussions sometimes with your mama, she's also looking for direction. That's the truth of the matter. Say, hapa kwa in-laws, I want us to do blah, 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 blah. Too many men say, ama we unaona hiyo iko aje. Already you have given power. And then you end up being the one who is the one asking and checking, hey, is that okay to do that? Is that okay to do that? It will set a stage for you even for other things in your marriage that will not be cool. So have a plan. If you do not have a plan, ask other men who have been in this. Kuja kwa isho tuulize, what kind of plan should I draft in terms of dealing with my in-laws, and then implement it. You will discover that you've been married for so many years, like some of us, with zero altercation with our in-laws. Zero. They cannot stand and say, ati tuliwahi kosana. Never. We don't even allow it to happen. Wacha wakosane na dada yao. Sasa zingine hata wanapeleka mbio huko. I'm the one who steps in, I tell her, by the way, samea huyo. Achia huyo nafasi ni. And that should be how it is. And vice versa. But if you allow those cross sections to happen, you'll have a very unhappy marriage.
Right. Silas, are they just bad in-laws? Bad.
Yeah. Like just like they're bad people, they're bad in-laws. And the people are very malevolent. People are jealous. People are malicious. And I think I mentioned earlier that I saw a friend and how the in-laws almost ruined his marriage. He had to stand very firm for him to rescue that marriage. Because like when you have like elder sisters, wanakuja na ugomvi, you know, they just come with very bad vibes to your marriage, trying to misadvise your wife. You know, women are very impressionable, and they can easily be swayed by, you know, petty stuff and all that. So I do believe they are bad in-laws, and it can be the father, it can be the mother, it can just be anyone. Of course, you've heard of these fathers who convert their son-in-laws into ATMs. Kila saa, my son, I know they're manipulating my son, iko hivi, you know. And their fathers, alafu unajua kuna wale nye, they're basically robbing you. They don't respect you enough, like kujua hapa kuna bound, acha niachie hapa. Kila saa, mama akigonjeka, mama ni mgonjwa. Kama kuna mchango wa shule huko kwao, mwa pesa, you know. So the people can easily, the same thing also the mother-in-laws who can do that. Especially if you happen to be a man who has many akotuna pesa kidogo that can be taken away from.
It can be. Because kuna ile manipulation ile
ya misuse you vibaya sana.
Unapiga simu na mtu anasema ati unajua hapa tuko wagonjwa sana, hata tujui tufanye nini. Siasa tujui nani atatusaidia. Thrown inference.
Really hata tulilala hivyo jana.
Yeah, and also sister-in-laws, kuna madada hapa atakuja and they want to kupita na wewe. You know, they want to rock your marriage, You see, there's something funny about sisters, Sisters, they either get along or they don't get along. There's never an in between. So kuna ile out of ile sister obligation, dada amekuja kuishi naye but kuna shida kati yao wawili. That rivalry.
Wanakuingiza kwa hiyo story.
Wanakuingiza kwa mix na pita naye, and they'll make sure the sisters known. Unajua men don't care about values. Hata ukimfukuza atakuwa sha settle the score with the sister. So the people are just like
akitoka kwa bedroom zile vitu anavaa akikuja kusalimia asubuhi.
Yeah.
Anatoka kuoga na towel.
Those usually the younger ones,
The younger ones. Kwanza sister kimkosea.
Yeah. Kwanza if you know, because usually by the time you're getting married, your wife has said a few things here and there. If you know that your wife has got a sibling rivalry with maybe a younger sister who's, you know, still unmarried, na kuna kulikuwa waliwahi korofishana, kuna kale kitu kana kwanga pending, wanasalamiananga lakini kuna ka question mark. That is the one you must avoid.
Lakini
Exactly the one you must mark.
No, you use as the pawn. That one is it should be assigned to you. That one is the one you must avoid by all means necessary. Hata akiwa ishi kwenu, those are the days you must come home late. Kama umeingia kwa bedroom.
I'm no goggles.
That one.
If a woman sets her eyes on you na anasema lazima alale na wewe,
There's no escape.
aya kuna escape route hapo.
Hata Biblia iongea hapo ati inasema chenga.
So
Chenga bro.
So those are some of the bad people. Also, I've seen brother-in-laws who con their in-laws. Unakuja tu nakoniwa tu, alafu unajua there's nothing you can do in law, you can't take them to jail nini. So like that aspect of finances unaweza chezwa, sexual immorality. Hata mother-in-laws kuna wengine wabaya. Mother-in-laws kuna wengine wanaweza kuja tu mazee anacheka. You know this lady, she maybe she got a child, maybe she's in 17.
Yeah.
Now your wife is maybe like in her late 20s, the mother is like in her late 40s, still well kept. Yeah. Aja pia na anaweza kuwa na
Cougar, she's at the cougar stage now.
Ako cougar stage, na kama una morals unaweza pata makosa imefanyika. There are good number of women
And maybe you go out to drink together.
you go to drink together.
You are progressive.
Because
I mean, I think for those ones, because even the ones who are the ones who are like cons have done this conning before. I think the best answer to that one, because the ones who are cons have done the cons before. Even your wife knows to con men. Even you know that you have your con men cousins. You know the guys who know you'll do a number on someone. You know them. So I think the standard measure for a couple should be, and this is why you must see things from the same point. If my brother, comes to my wife, Uko, and tries to tell her, blah 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 blah, her standard response should be, I'll run it by my husband. Standard response. There should never be a side thing there that you can dish out a kasao and either not tell me or tell me later. Just same as ndio nini, okay sawa, taongea na yeye, I'll get back to you. Same story, you'll find that the cons will fade because they know uko
amejulikana.
The other side they know their real historia. Otherwise utapeana hii pesa utakuwa na shinda ukipeana do under the name of maintaining relations utakwisha.
Alright. Nambuguzi Kiwanuka, I have a cousin whose guy I can't stand, so I decided to look away from him. Blocked him from my WhatsApp status to create boundaries because he didn't seem to have any. Perhaps we should normalize seeing people from far. Lucy Achola, Silas, tell us something about Mercy, the cat owner. Jela Rama, the signs were there before. He chose to ignore them. Alikwambia shuke atoke kwa nyumba Mwangi Kashwende. Guys, I'm laughing so hard as much as this conversation is so real and eye-opening. And I'm going to say, yes, get out of the car. Kadori, oi.
Nimesema hivyo.
Na anaitwa Nabuguzi Kiwamuka.
That's a friend from Uganda all the way.
Na nakubali that we get out of the car.
Na the original scene is marrying above your class. Silas, have you just taken us away from the scene in Eden? Joel Rama is asking, so with all this gloom, with all this gloom in marriage, then why are we getting it? Okay. That gloom and doom, why marry in the first place?
Ende ulize uko.
Nasema hii kitu kikushinda ukiona si ya kila mtu, ukiona ingiane unajaribu vitu zingine. Kuna vitu zingine unaweza jaribu, hata unaweza amua kuwa mkulima. Vitu zingine Keranji kuna cheza kama Leonardo DiCaprio. I just want to viewers tackle what like button support the broadcast. Thank you so much, my brother Atticus from the United Kingdom, for always supporting us. Atticus, now salute to Kones and the rest of the panel and for being open with their thoughts. Well done, gentlemen. Atticus, test and vet. I like that. Levi, you're the child of following. Good to see you. Kimbet walk. Because now chungeni hiyo kitu inaitwa mother-in-law. Worst enemy sometimes. No, kana kaanga pending. Sikonajua mambo ni mingi. Now, what are the rules of in-laws? Because sometimes you're having issues with your mama. And every other time when there is an issue, it's the in-laws who always chip in. What are the roles? What are the roles of in-laws in marriage, especially in terms of conflict? Jacob, how far should they come?
I think in general, because for me, I view my in-laws as my parents. I try not to involve them in any issue that... if you're having issues, I think you should find a way of sorting them without involving your in-laws. And I don't know in terms of what the cultural practice is, but they will come now, I think, when everything else has failed. But there are some people who feel that any small altercation you have, you call the in-laws, you ask for their intervention and so on. So I don't think that is a good practice, because it breaks boundaries and it also lowers respect. So as much as possible, I think it is good to find a way of resolving your issues without involving your in-laws. Yeah.
Okay. Levi?
0. As much as possible, they should be involved. 0.
Okay.
When it comes to conflict, take it away as far as possible. The first people who can always solve a conflict is you and your mama. If it actually fails you, and it only fails you when you really want it to, I would say that, because years of marriage have taught me that even the best people to solve a conflict is still the two of you, because even sometimes friends can come in and engage us
sides and so on.
And some things that don't matter. So as much as possible, try you. But just in case it does fail you, then you must involve people that you respect, that are not your in-laws, that both of you can actually listen to their advice and adhere to. Some people choose pastors. It's not exactly my cup of tea on this particular regard, because sometimes the only thing they do is throw verses at you, and it's not really practical. Some things must be actually talked about and dealt with, and we cannot wash away everything with just a prayer and what's it called? And I'm a prayerful man. I must put a disclaimer there. We just pray and, saying, that this was just the demons. No. Some of these things are communication, misunderstanding, upbringing, differences in looking at things. There are so many things that cause people to have conflict. So if it's possible, maintain a 0 when it comes to dealing with your in-laws. Don't bring them in, because here's the problem. The problem is, once you have involved your in-laws in these big fights that you have had, and you have made up, and you have gone home, and you're happy, you have left ammunition for whatever might happen later. Whatever issue, because this life we do not know the kind of issues that will come up. One time tu nasikia hata walikuwa napigananga sana, hata mimi nilimwambia sijui nini. Na unajua in a fight, a lot of things are said. Couples expose each other in a fight quite a lot. When we are solving problems, because initially what happens is now tumejam. So tumejam, mimi na wife yangu, we are being brought to a place where we are discussing. Usually the first few sentences of that discussion, first conversations, mnaanikana to some degree.
That's to show who is wrong, who is more wrong.
Who is more wrong. Unasema huyu hata sijui nini, huyu hata sijui. You do not want to listening to that conversation. Have you ever heard the story of the 3 pastors who went on a trip? And then they went there and then they told each other, let us tell each other our deepest secrets. They were fasting and praying. And then one pastor said, me, I've got an issue. Me, I like sleeping with mamas. Once in a while when I'm giving Holy Communion, I touch them, I do bad things, blah, 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 blah. Okay, sir, you're forgiven. The next one, I can say, me, my issue is I drink under the table, nini, I do things. The third guy, he said, me, my issue is gossiping, and I'm dying to get out of here. Some windows are like that. I'm just dying to get out of there. Waende tu waseme, mase unajua.
Ujaona mwananga tu bure na suti.
Package like this.
You guys are bugger.
And also, for that sake of respect, I agree with my brother entirely. Maintain respect. Wachana na hiyo mambo ya involve in-laws. You'll have a fight, so solve it with other people. Yeah.
Also, one of the biggest issues that is coming out, of course, especially in the modern marriages, even as we wind up 7 minutes past 9 p.m., is the issue of bride price. And demands for them. I mean, the demands that are made on especially what also Silas was talking about, maybe when you're marrying up. These guys are like, this is what we want for our daughter. If you cannot give this, then you cannot take care of our daughter. Or just conflict generally that come out of bride price and yeah, no. But I thought, how do you maneuver around that?
I think men need to be, what I've seen is I think we allow our egos to get in the way. If someone finds, if a man has built himself, he has money, he feels he needs to show that he has a lot of resources. So you find some guys giving a lot of money, a lot of cows, a lot of goats, very conspicuous show of opulence. And I think that is not a good practice, because you have to entertain the possibility, actually it's a fact, that the amount of bride price you give is not a reflection of the kind of marriage you're going to have. It's just the same way you can have a very lavish wedding and you get divorced in a few months. So that is not a very good practice. And also at the same time, also men need to guard themselves, because you have in-laws who are very greedy or exploitative. You find you're being asked for 50 heads of cattle, or even 20 heads, or even 10 heads of cattle. That time you're just a broke guy. You're living in a small house paying some maybe 3,000 or 10,000 rent. These guys want you to spend upwards of 200,000 in marrying this particular girl. So men need to be able to protect themselves and say no, and not just succumb to the pressure that sometimes comes from the in-laws. So it's very important to be pragmatic. Don't be too lavish, and at the same time also do not put yourself in a situation where you're taking a loan to pay bride price or bride wealth. It doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Keep your expectations low. A friend of mine is actually, we are taking him to a show up on May 1st. And tunaenda nako kasubs kadogo. Mambo ya kushow up na ma-VX ni si zako, achana na hizo vitu. You just
sarakasi mingi.
That's just sarakasi mingi. Don't go there trying to show how you have tunes, how you're making it. The quality of you should be in your inside.
Lakini wakimake demands.
Sasa wakimake demands.
Aone inside. Anataka pesa.
When you make, sasa unajua the problem is you're not the one in control of demands. So you must get somebody from your side of the family who's very good at negotiating in terms of demands being met. The good thing is a lot of those things are not exactly in your hand. There are people who will also see they have made too much demands and they will be able to nip it in the bud. But I'll say this. If you find that the demands are crazy, you're being asked for 1 million shillings, yeah, and you can barely afford 100,000, yeah, you have two options. If your mama is in the game with you, the first option you have is you guys can linger that vibe and chart your own path. The in-laws always come around. The moment you get a baby, they'll figure it out. They realize these guys are there to stay. They will do what they'll do. The second option is you can walk away from that story. But the third option of getting the million should never be on the table. Don't ever enter into an agreement that cripples you from the get-go in your marriage, because the in-laws won't care. They won't live with you. It's the same thing we say about weddings. You would want to do a wedding for a meter, and it's for a day, and we're going to eat that pilau, we're going to look at your nice colors, and then we'll walk away. And then we'll leave you with a kadeni there, which you will carry on your shoulders for years and years to come. And we will not be knowing how much you're paying for it because you are treating us for that one day. The same thing applies to the story of bride price. You people must again get into the game. Again, it's important to have this discussion even with your bride-to-be, because she can be your first advocate when she's saying she's getting married. She can already talk to her dad and soften him up. Dad, my guy is still working. He's not doing any. Don't finya him. You know, she should be the one giving you insider information from that side long before you show up. That, Uko, this is what they are saying, blah, blah. You must use her as your spy. It's the two of you who are going to build a home. And you're going to be become together. My wife spied for me. She told me, what was the deal, Uko? I was fully aware. Nikamwambia wakisema hivi utakuja hivi. My guy. When we showed up, we were chasing hapo Premier League games.
Karata, uko kadi.
Making sure things are going okay. Because these things, as much as they are, I'm a father of daughters right now. Yeah? My emphasis, and I'm not raising them so that I can collect dowry from them. Who will pay me enough money for what I'm doing for them right now? Who? Where I'm taking them to school, the kind of input I'm putting them. Nobody. These things are supposed to be just tokens of appreciation if they happen, just to make sure that there's a camaraderie as families are coming together. They're not supposed to be payments. You cannot pay for anyone. And don't allow anyone to make us feel as if we're being paid for. Because even as men, tumeenda shule, tumesomeshwa, tumechungwa. We are quality guys. Who's paying for that?
Even as our children.
So tuuliza Wahindi wanalipa your story.
Uliza hapa.
Yeah? We are also quality guys. Now you find a guy is eloquent, nini, amejipackage vizuri, is well, nini. No one is factoring in that we are getting a quality dude with very good potential, with nice shoulders and good eyes, and an excellent base, and he can carry things around that, and anaonekana kibeba vitu hapo. No one is good. They're just factoring in, you're getting CG, what you mean. I mean, you're not taking together. This man will handle our daughter well. So, in the same manner, you must also get to a point where you have that line. Because trust me, if you have in-laws who are extra demanding of you, and your wife is doing nothing of it, that is your first sign to run away, because it will play out in your marriage. Your wife will do exactly what you're doing, will be very demanding to you.
Taroka.
Because that is how they've been raised. So it's a good place, because we always say break the engagement is better than breaking the marriage, because breaking the marriage, Silas amesema hapa, ameenda kotini, ameobserve vile kazi ngumu sana kufanya hiyo story. So here is your first chance at knocking that off the table if it comes up. Because dowry should not be a painful process for anyone.
Lakini hao watu kwa naweza yohana tu alafu alipange dowry.
Na kama ukiona sino nikwambia usione hivyo, then cheza kama wewe. Ingiza boli goal na tukutane mbele.
Kesi baadaye.
Tutacount scores kama na kesi. Shamba iko na kesi.
Utapigwa fine.
Shamba iko na kesi.
Shamba iko na kesi basi. Wote iko na kesi. Wote iko na kesi tutaongea.
Let's have our last rounds. Jacob. Let's have our last rounds.
Yeah, I think it was a good discussion. So I think the important thing is you need to establish boundaries with your in-laws. You need to make sure that you have a masculine frame. By the time you're getting married, have your own house, have your own means of life. You need to be financially independent. Do not depend on your in-laws for your provisionings. That will be a very bad strategy. You will lose respect and you're going to be emasculated. And also, it's also very, very important to guard who you associate with. Protect yourself. Do not get into liaisons with people in strange locations where they're using their phones to record you and things like that. So I think that's the main thing. Just take care.
Okay.
Yeah.
Levi, then we go to Silas as we're moving to Silas.
Oh yeah, it's good that you're going to, because a single guy can spit fire without consequences.
Last round.
All we can say, no. Acha mimi niseme, Silas atasema, acha aseme mwisho.
Ndio achome kama anachoma.
Kama atachoma achome, na tuache station in flames. All I can say is I concur with the gentleman and a large part of this discussion in terms of keep distance. Keep a healthy distance, not too much to cause you a problem. But not too close again to cause you a problem. You know, ni kama kuota moto, just the right place. Too far you get cold, too near you get burnt. You must find the balance for how you play around in that sphere as a gentleman. And from there, I'll go back to the beginning of the whole story of the dowry where we have just ended. The dowry is a good place for negotiation. It's a good place for you to know what kind of marriage you'll be entering into. Please don't die because of dowry. It's a token. It's good that sometimes traditions are making us do that thing. It makes appreciation. It makes a wedding a little bit more fun because there's all that give and take and back and forth and singing of songs and all those good things that go with it. But please, it is not a killer for you dudes. Don't die because of dowry. And finally, to concur with what Aliet has said, stay away from your phones. Wachana nayo. This thing, and let's even add those people. Forget about these people who have been taken voluntarily. Kuna wale wana shoot video just in the act kicking it. With your girlfriend who will be your ex tomorrow.
You mean smashing it?
I mean smashing it. With your girlfriend or boyfriend who will be your ex tomorrow, who has access to that video. That's
access to internet and bundles.
And sahi access to internet and bundles na full of a broken heart na weave.
Na kuna free MBs.
If you want to watch yourself doing those acts na nini, use your shadow. Sasa
angalia kivuli
yako. Acha mambo mengi.
Okay, my parting shot would be like, first of all, I don't think that men should pay the bride price. Okay. Like, there's no reason whatsoever why men in 2023 should be paying the bride price. Unless now women decide to, like, we reverse it like that. In India, it's the family of the woman paying the men, because nowadays, our women out here, like, whatever you're paying for, there's nothing that you get in return.
There's no value.
There's no value.
Okay.
Number two,
Levi was right. Okay.
True. Okay. Like, there's no value. I don't know. Like, I can speak amongst like men my generation. basically you're married, but you're married to the house help.
Okay.
Like the house help who's giving you what your wife ordinarily should be giving you. Ordinarily. So maybe you should pay the bride price to the family of the house help, not the one you're married to. Number 2, you should only see your in-laws the day you're marrying her, like, the visitation, the day if you're going to pay the bride price, and during a funeral. And unless someone is like critically very sick, and something a phone call won't do, but you should steer clear and stay as far away as possible from not just your in-laws, even the drama in our family. When she comes and she's telling you, my dad, my mom, just nod and just ask us, what will you do?
What will you do?
And then just turn on like, you should never, ever be involved in our family's drama. Of course, as I said earlier, you can extend any kind of help that you can. Maybe it's financial. Kuna mtu amekwama mahali, that one you can help if you have a good heart. Kama kuna sister yako dada anataka kwenda college ama job, that one you can help. But stay as far away as possible. And lastly, study them well so that you can know what each of them is capable of. There are those who can mess you up, and there are those who can actually work with, if there is need. But if there is, the idea is just to stay as far as possible. But ordinarily, you ask whether there are bad in-laws. There are also good in-laws. That also, you should also say that. But that is it from me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think as you've had a conversation here, it has been. And Nigati Wakuria initially used to think that bride price was demanded so that women could not leave their marriages. I'm of the opinion that some aspects of dowry should be evaluated to fit the society as it is now. Joel Arama, chairman, diaspora, on dowry, I concur, be yourself. Otherwise, you will start your life in a misery. I know a couple where the lady's family was unreasonable. The guy offered 100,000, they declined. The couple went and started their lives and they had kids. Years later, the mosaic came to visit. And when before leaving, he asked about the 100K. The lady spoke up and told the dad that the money is now our kids' college fund. Fare na ka shopping. Utapata hiyo ingine. Hakuna. Asa dowry, asa mzee ampata 0. Alikuwa ameambiwa 100 akakataa. Asa kimaumana. Moses, get out today, gentlemen. The show hooked me up. I'm imbibing the lessons, but they are my texts. Here are my texts. 1, establish boundaries. Keep distance with your in-laws. Have a masculine friend. Don't depend on your in-laws. Guard who you associate with. Don't let yourself be taken advantage of in relationships when it comes to bride price. Study your in-laws. Have situational awareness. Okay, as usual, Moses text note. Derek, there's no usual experience. Levi, Kones, Sikakani says, men must overpay bride price. Bride price has become more transactional than gifts. Again, show off on some men. Okay, hapo ndio wanaume siku hizo wanasema wanatumia ikue so off. Atticus Naguris, it's my pleasure. And the person who was joined us this evening, thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming in. And I'm that brand ambassador of stay away from your in-laws. Still keep a distance. Not too far to look like you have a social problem, but also not too close that you start becoming an idiot. Yeah, because you expose yourself and you put yourself where it's very easy to shoot you. They know all your underbellies. So there's only much you can say. And you realize that the more you say, the more you stay with people, the more you say. And the more you say, the less defense you can ever have and the more respect that you lose. So when it comes to in-laws, keep them close. Just close. Not too close. Not too far. Yeah. Na mambo ya bride price pia, I think like Levi is saying, I think it's a responsibility of two partners. If your mama is not willing to cushion it, because of course you all know. Anajua kwa nini hauna hiyo 2 million ama kwa nini hauna hiyo 1 million, because you're not buying her off. But just appreciating. So and this is a continuous process. That's why Kikuyu anakuanga watu wazuri wananga maneno. It's a continuous process. If you can pay dowry until you're 100 years. So I think that you need to allow yourselves to begin life from somewhere and build up. Mambo ya dowry mtafanya tu bado. Lakini kama mama ndiye anakuambia bado wewe dowry kwanza ndio lazima ulete so that things can move, then you need to realize that you only have yourself. You only have yourself to back yourself up. So anyway, it's been a pleasure having you. This has been Men Only, the 19th of March. Is it March or April?
We're in April, bro.
Akia nani.
In April.
Karibu mwaka inaisha tena. How many days to Christmas?
Una backtrack.
How many days to Christmas?
We have like 9 months to
9 months
Christmas.
to Christmas. We're moving really fast.
Okay. It's been a pleasure having you. Always a pleasure. See you tomorrow. Gerald Arama, of course. Janabugiza Kiwamunuka from Uganda. Anasema you all done a great job. Thank you so much. Moses Gitao, I'm rewatching this session again. Thank you so much. Sikia Kanisha kijana yangu anasema summary iko chonjo kabisa. Thank you na utupeleke Uganda Silas. Ben Maka anasema this is the new normal. Nuna tuko ndani napenda. Tupeleke Uganda.
Uganda?
Yeah.
Uganda.
That's the goal. They are very submissive. Yeah.
And by the way, to all the single men, before you marry,
visit Uganda.
Rwanda.
Rwanda.
Visit Rwanda.
Rwanda was told.
Unaona hiyo shati ya Arsenal, visit Rwanda?
No.
Take it seriously.
Take it serious.
Rwanda, I was told they make lousy wives but good girlfriends. Yeah. For short term, you're good, but for long term, that's a guy who told me that.
How is that different from
Aliet amemwangalia.
So where do we go?
Uganda.
And it's long term.
Uganda and keep it Eastern Uganda. I don't know. Yeah.
So visit Uganda.
Visit Uganda.
Not visit Rwanda.
Not visit Rwanda.
So visit Rwanda.
Short
Term, but end up in Uganda.
At least him,
Jacob, where do you suggest
he can experiment and tell her, give us a report.
So where do you suggest
In due course.
No, let's send Silas out as our guinea pig. For men only. Aende arudi
Where do you
atuambie.
suggest you go, Silas?
We go.
Where do you suggest you visit, Silas?
We visit Silas.
Where do you, not Jacob, where are you proposing we visit? Because you looks like you're
Uganda is okay.
Champara.
Uganda iko sawa kabisa.
So there's only one vote for Rwanda.
I think we have a lot of followers from Uganda.
Okay.
Umekata hiyo sasa tunaongea ama unaendelea na show?
Na maguzi kiwanuka. Just know that kwanza utasema unaenda safari. Utakuwa unaulizwa tuma location. Mambo inakuwa ngumu. So kiwanuka, just so that you know we are coming. So please prepare and have matoke and groundnut soup. Tunakuja Uganda. It's been a pleasure having you. Until tomorrow on Diaspora Edition, Joel Arama, of course, will be holding forth. Keja Graphics. A lot of gentlemen will be online tomorrow. Kina Doro will be on Diaspora Edition. Please make sure that you can join them tomorrow from 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Until tomorrow, I wish you a very great night. And God bless you. This has been Men Only. Bye-bye.